The member countries of the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our America People's Trade Agreement, ALBA-TCP, held the 19th Summit of Heads of State and Government. Venezuela on Thursday received the first batch of the Abdala COVID-19 vaccine developed in Cuba. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm Gladys Quesada. Representatives of the member countries of the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our America People's Trade Agreement, ALBA-TCP, participated on Thursday in the 19th Summit of Heads of State and Government. Venezuelan authorities, headed by Foreign Minister Jorge Arreaza, received the guests at the Simón Bolívar International Airport in the state of La Guaira. The summit's motto was Alliance for Life and Independence, as inspiration on central topic to discuss the regional political situation and the progress of its revitalization process during 2021, facing the challenges of the post-pandemic stage. This ALBA-TCP summit was held during the celebration of the 200th anniversary of the Battle of Carabobo in Venezuela, which consolidated the path to independence from the Spanish Empire. President of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro Moros, presented himself at the 19th Summit of the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our America People's Trade Agreement. The necessity of a world with equality among nations and rid of plunder is an issue that the mandatory addressed in his speech.
This year is the 21st century, no doubt that the one that marks the end of all empires. It will be the century of the rising of a world of peace, a humane world, as our singer Ali Primera said, so humanity can be humane.
Cuba's Foreign Minister Bruno Rodríguez Parrilla spoke in the 19th Summit of the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our America People's Trade Agreement. He considered the defense of the Latin American people's right of self-determination as a key factor for maintaining the achievements of long-fought social and political struggles.
Venezuelan people continue to fight an exemplary battle against imperialism and the oligarchy who pretend to thwart the advance of the work initiated by Bolívar, forged by Commandant Chavez, defended heroically by the Chevite people and the Civic Military Union under the leadership of our constitutional president, friend Nicolás Maduro Moros. I salute and reiterate our firm support to the brotherly people of Nicaragua and its government of national reconciliation, steered by Commandant Daniel Ortega Saavedra, who has defended and continued to defend bravely and with dignity their achievements, despite the threats and interventionist actions of the United States.
President of Bolivia, Luis Arce, was welcomed in the 19th Summit of the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our America People's Trade Agreement and referred to the Latin American integration as a pathway of hope for the other countries of the world that demand a fair distribution of wealth.
The construction of a Patria Grande, a grand motherland, entirely plurinational, free and sovereign, is a moral imperative to our history. On this meaningful occasion, it is urgent to deeply reflect upon the difficult times that we face, Latin American peoples and all of humanity, that evidence the insensitivity and iniquity of the capitalist system, which keeps on putting on the shoulders of the weakest the heaviest burdens.
In the 19th Summit of the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our America People's Trade Agreement, Prime Minister of Dominica, Roosevelt Skerrit, spoke against the impositions of foreign and oligarchic interests in the matters of popular well-being.
Here in Venezuela and what has happened in Bolivia should never be allowed to happen anywhere else, where these interventionist attitudes believe that they must dictate to the people who are their leadership, who should lead them and when they should lead them. But we should not allow them, as citizens of this region, to decide where we stand on the decision, based on who is in government or how they lead.
Also in the 19th Summit of the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our America People's Trade Agreement, the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Ralph Gonsalves, shared his thoughts on the relevance of the organization and its impact on the lives of the Caribbean and Latin American peoples and their ties.
TCP, from the inaugural meeting until today, so I know for a son the heroic work of Fidel Castro and Hugo Chavez. I can write a book about it, as to how this came about and what transpired. And this is an extraordinary organization, ALBA-TCP. It is an integration movement of the highest quality, benefiting the free and independent people across the Caribbean and Latin American civilization, and what we engage in daily in our struggle for survival and the improvement of the life of our people, the quality of those lives, our living and production.
In Venezuela, the Bicentennial Congress of the Peoples concluded with the participation of hundreds of activists from different countries who expressed their commitment to confront the pandemic and the interference in the region. At the meeting, participating delegations reaffirmed their commitment to a new pluripolar order and denounced the abuses of the United States and its allies. They also condemned violence unleashed against Colombia's youth by Iván Duque's government. The delegates stressed the quest for the solidarity and cooperation among peoples to fight the pandemic and devise political strategies leading to governments committed to human rights and environmental protection, more humane and ecological governments. In Brazil, the Supreme Court annulled all proceedings of former Judge Sergio Moro against Brazil's former President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. The decision by Justice Gilmar Mendes at the request of Lula's legal team represents another legal and political victory for Lula, who was sentenced and imprisoned in Curitiba by Moro on charges of corruption without any evidence. The aim was to prevent Lula from running for president at the 2018 elections, for which he was the front-runner. Moro was later rewarded by President Jair Bolsonaro with the post of Minister of Justice. Lula had been accused of accepting a beach apartment as a bribe to favor private interests in the case known as Lava Jato, involving dozens of officials both in Brazil and abroad. Lula is expected to run again in 2022 elections. Peru is going through very tense developments as we speak. The illegal resignation of a member of the National Electoral Body is seen as a last-ditch attempt to twist the presidential vote results and prevent Pedro Castillo from taking office. The resignation of a National Electoral Board member while a process is in course is explicitly forbidden. Luis Arce left the post, accusing the board of political bias. The move is widely seen as an attempt to discredit the body, which has rejected all unsubstantiated claims of fraud by Keiko Fujimori, the defeated extreme-right presidential candidate. The board said it will ensure that the democratic process is respected, which should mean the imminent declaration of progressive candidate Pedro Castillo as president-elect. Meanwhile, several social organizations, political parties, student groups, among others, have called for demonstrations and denounced a national civic and popular strike if the official proclamation of Castillo does not take place before July the 6th.
Dear people, representative of the press, Congress all. On behalf of the Federation of Education Workers of Peru, we are here in the capital and also in the 25 regions of the country, organizing the national mobilization on Saturday, June 26. And if they don't listen to us, we will take national strike action, precisely on July 6, commemorating with Day of the Teacher Struggle. We have come to tell the powerful, the coup-mongering sectors that the new vote of the people, of the peasants, of the teachers, of the workers, and of the small merchants will not be violated, and the Republic is not threatened with a coup. And that's why we tell them that the people have already elected Castillo as president.
And we'll be right back after this very short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. Venezuela on Thursday received the first batch of the Abdala COVID-19 vaccine developed in Cuba. Vice President Delcy Rodriguez received the shipment, which is part of the contracts signed between Venezuela and Cuba for the development of 12 million doses of the Abdala vaccine against the coronavirus. This comes after the scientific community confirmed the vaccine candidate had shown efficacy of more than 92%. Cuban ambassador to Venezuela, Dagoberto Rodriguez, stressed that the agreement is a sign of the close relations and solidarity between the two countries.
Not the slightest doubt that in this significant act, where we are confirming the reception of the Cuban vaccine Abdala, Bolívar remains undefeated. In this triumph over those who tried to oppress our people, over those who tried to dominate us.
Cuban ambassador to Venezuela, Dagoberto Rodriguez, pointed out that this vaccine is a sign of the close relations between the two countries.
The first batch of the Abdala vaccine is a sign of a close, brotherly relationship between our countries. With the arrival of this vaccine, the vial doesn't only carry a vaccine that can help to alleviate the pandemic, to save lives, but in each vial comes the sentiment of love and brotherhood of the Cuban people.
And 1 out of 4 Cubans have been vaccinated against COVID-19, with more than 5 million doses applied so far. Health authorities in the country announced that so far 24% of the population has been immunized with at least 1 dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. According to a study carried out by England's Oxford University, Cuba currently leads in the percentage of people vaccinated in a day per 100 inhabitants. This is the result of effective synergies between industry, research centers, and the public health system, the study says. Cuba has developed 5 vaccines, of which 2 have reached the third and final stage of testing. One of them, called Abdala, has proved a 92.3% efficacy in preventing the disease.
We believe that Cuba will be the first country to be able to vaccinate its entire population by 2021 with its own vaccines. We will have to see what will happen with the efficacy of the sum of 2 doses of Soberana O2 and 1 dose of Soberana Plus, which is what we will present to our regulatory authority when we have this final data.
As the far-right government of Jair Bolsonaro continues to face a Senate investigation into its mishandling of the health crisis, Brazil registered a record number of COVID-19 cases on Wednesday. The health ministry's figures confirm the arrival of a third wave of the pandemic in the world's second deadliest country. Over 115,000 new cases were confirmed on Wednesday, as well as almost 2,400 COVID-19 related fatalities. Meanwhile, the Copa America football tournament continues as means of distraction for the masses, although it too has not escaped the virus. The vaccination program continues to be slow, and the population is mobilizing to demand both vaccines and financial support in the midst of the ongoing economic crisis. The supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei, received the first dose of the Coviran-Baccarat vaccine of national production against COVID-19. Khamenei expressed Friday he had wanted since the beginning of the pandemic a vaccine of Iranian fabrication and would wait until there was one to be immunized. He insisted from the start of the vaccination campaign he will wait his normal turn to be jabbed without any political privileges. Most of the Iranian population over the age of 80 has received the vaccine. Only 1% of the African population has been vaccinated against the pandemic. While developed countries in the Western Hemisphere distribute the anti-COVID vaccines for a gross profit, the African world faces its third peak of the disease in uncontrollable waves. This was addressed by the director of the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, John Negason.
Extremely brutal, and we hope that countries will take drastic measures. We are running a race behind time here because the pandemic is ahead of us. Let me put it very bluntly, we are not winning in Africa. We are not winning in Africa this battle against the virus. So it really doesn't matter to me at this point whether the vaccines are from COVAX or from anything. What we need is rapid access to vaccines to member states. So the third wave is extremely...
And we have more stories coming up after this final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Incomprehensible, that is how the Russian spokesperson Dmitry Peskov described the divisiveness of the European Union regarding the summit between the countries of the bloc and President Vladimir Putin. The European leaders did not agree on the format of the dialogue they wished to sustain with Putin. Therefore, the summit will not take place in the nearby future. Peskov considered this attitude as inconsequent and incomprehensible. In addition to the impasse, the heads of state and government of the EU decided to extend the economic sanctions imposed on Russia, which are set to expire in July. After a British war vessel incursioned into Russian jurisdiction near Crimea this week. With warning fire, Russian Navy ships and aircraft expelled the vessel, the HMS Defender, into international waters in the Black Sea, the Russian government said. The Russian authorities described the United Kingdom's act as a provocation and violation of international law. London has argued that its vessel was navigating Ukrainian waters as the UK does not recognize Crimea as Russian. In turn, Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov said the UK might consider rebaptizing the Defender as HMS Aggressor instead. Minneapolis policeman Derek Chauvin killed by asphyxiation the African-American citizen George Floyd on May 2020. This April, Chauvin was sentenced guilty of Floyd's murder and now faces Judge Peter Cahill's verdict that will determine how much time the former officer spends behind bars. Judge Peter Cahill is set to decide Chauvin's sentence length after being convicted of the 3 counts he was charged by prosecution: second-degree unintentional murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. Prosecutors are asking for 30 years, the highest practical amount under Minnesota laws, for the current process. Chauvin's defense attorney asked for probation, though several observers agreed that the sentence most likely to be issued by the judge will be 30 years. For now, the streets of Minnesota await Cahill's decision. In Canada, new evidence of genocide has come up. Hundreds of unmarked graves were discovered at the site of another former residential school for Indigenous children, the Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations said. The graves are located at the old residential Indigenous School of Marival, southwest of the Saskatchewan province in south-central Canada. Indigenous children were forced to attend these special schools, most of them run by churches. The idea was to brainwash children into assimilation to the Anglo-Saxon culture of their colonizers, but evidence seems to show that genocide was also part of the plan. On June 1st, the remains of 215 indigenous children were found at another school, prompting statements of sorrow and consternation. The remains in the new finding more than tripled those of June the 1st, the Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations said. Approximately 650 United States troops will remain in Afghanistan to protect diplomats after the Pentagon completes its troop withdrawal from the Asian country. Much of the withdrawal will occur over the next 2 weeks. Several hundred U.S. military personnel will assist Turkish forces in providing security at the airport in the Afghan capital. Those troops are expected to remain in place until the end of September, while Turkey prepares permanent security posts at the crucial point. In April, President Joe Biden announced a total withdrawal of U.S. troops in Afghanistan before September 11th this year, coinciding with the 20th anniversary of the Twin Towers attacks. The new Israeli government approved another set of illegal construction projects in the occupied West Bank, keeping policies from the previous cabinet. The Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett signed the go-ahead to 31 construction projects in the illegal settlements, including a mall, a network of infrastructure, and modifications of the urban grid in the occupied Palestinian territory of the West Bank. In Nigeria, the conflict between Boko Haram insurgents and the government has caused the death of some 324,000 children aged under 5, mostly from disease and hunger, the United Nations warned. According to the UN Development Programme, since the fighting started 12 years ago, the number of victims has increased tenfold. The insurgency linked to the Islamic State or Daesh has spread since 2009 to neighboring countries. Some 40,000 people are estimated to have been killed and 2 million displaced from their homes since. Agriculture, water access, commerce, food and medical attention have also been seriously disrupted. An ambush in Burkina Faso left 11 policemen dead and 4 others missing. The attackers are presumed to be members of a jihadist cell, the government said. The assault occurred on Monday at Jirgo, a village in the north of the country. In April 2021, 4 soldiers were killed close to the same village while on patrol. Since then, there has been a rise in confrontations in the area. Jirgo is the place where a massacre took 48 lives in 2019, all people from the Muslim Fulani ethnic group. Official numbers estimate that violence has left 1,400 dead since 2015. Nearly 1 million people have to flee their homes. And one piece of justice seems to be on its way for Chilean victims of Pinochet. An Australia federal court gave the green light for the extradition of Adriana Rivas, a former Chilean dictatorship secret police agent. This is Rivas in the 70s, when she was the secretary and lover of Manuel Contreras, head of dictator Augusto Pinochet's secret political police, the DINA. Since 2019, she lives in an Australian prison awaiting extradition for the forced disappearance of 7 political prisoners, including Victor Diaz, clandestine Secretary General of the Communist Party in the 1970s. Rivas was part of a special unit in charge of exterminating communist leaders at a secret torture and killing center in Santiago, the Chilean capital. She has been fighting extradition since 2017 and now is one step closer to facing justice, some 40 years too late. And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.